why does the Bible have a story in it of a concubine being cut up into 12 pieces? Well, I'm Pete Enns, a biblical scholar, podcaster, author, and college professor. And one of the more disgusting stories in the Bible is the story of the Levite's concubine in the book of Judges, chapter 19. She is raped, dies, and is cut into 12 pieces. And the story goes like this. A Levite's concubine, they had concubines in those days, ran away from him back to her hometown in Bethlehem. But the Levite went out to get her and tenderly convinced her to come back, which she does. So long story short, on the way back, they stayed for the night in an old man's house in the town of Gibeah. While there, the men of Gibeah surrounded the house, demanding that the old man hand over the Levite to them so they could have sex with him. By the way, this is not homosexuality, but a move to demean and humiliate. That's what that's about. Anyway, the man seized the concubine and tossed her out the door, and the men raped her all night. Yeah, that's in the Bible. The next morning, the Levite got up and went outside, and there was his concubine, quote, lying at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold, which is a truly somber and infuriating scene. So the Levite, what he does, he puts her on the donkey, takes her home, and then proceeds to cut her into 12 pieces. And he sent one piece to each of the 12 tribes. Why would he do that? Well, to show them what a terrible thing the town of Gibeah had done, and so to band together and wage war against Gibeah. Now, this is a disgusting story, and many people wonder, rightly so, why the Bible would contain a story like this. Well, because he wants the reader to be disgusted. This is not condoning violence against women, neither the rape of the concubine nor her dismemberment. It is meant to elicit disgust. So that's the first lesson here. If you're reading a story in the Bible that is just gross, infuriating, maybe trust your instincts that it is gross. It's meant to be. And here, to make sure that readers get that, the story of the concubine here follows the same plot line of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in the book of Genesis, where the men of the town wanted to rape the visitors and were offered the virgin daughters instead. That is also a story meant to elicit disgust. So if you read this story and say, well, this is just plain wrong, you're right. It is wrong. That's his point. And here's another angle. This wretched town of Gibeah, where men do things like this, also happens to be the hometown of guess who? Israel's first king, Saul, and later it was the site of his royal residence. This story takes place right before the time of Saul, but here's the point. It was written far later, looking back on his failed kingship. In other words, this disgusting story isn't just for the sake of being disgusting. It has a purpose. You know, we really need a king to bring order to this chaos where disgusting things like this happen. And Saul from Gibeah, whose residents act like the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, he isn't it. See, this story at the end of the day is an anti-Saul polemic. And it is pro-David. And that's what you see if you dig a little bit beneath the surface. Yeah, it's a disgusting story, no question about that. And there's a reason for it in the writer's mind to establish something about David and against Saul.